Let's see how can we get this design chair inside in our Revit model. This is a chair from Italian company called Cassina, and I want to get this chair in my Revit model because I have to do some room. First things first, we have to download the model, and luckily for us, this website is giving us the opportunity to download different kinds of models. And here, what we are looking for is not a Revit model, but we are looking for 3D Max or FBX or OBJ or Max file, because we will need to import these files in Enscape, because we're going to make an Enscape asset. If you have 3D Max, a software, I would suggest you to download this file, because then we can open this file and always see if materials are applied correctly. If you don't have 3D Max, it's totally okay. You can still use file FBX or OBJ, because in theory and in most cases, these files already have assigned materials to the surfaces. If not, and if you don't have 3D Max, you can use Blender. Blender is a software which you can use for free, or SketchUp. Here I'm gonna go download this 3ds model, 3ds or Max. Let's go with a Max file. Here I have unzipped the folder, and there are two models. I will just pick one of these. Let's start the first one, and I will just drag it in 3ds Max. I have opened the 3ds Max software, and I will tell open a file. I will just continue. And okay, here it is. The reason why I'm opening the model in 3D Max, because I want to see if all the surfaces are having the materials. In this case, it's very simple because this chair has only one material. There is actually no need to open 3D Max. But if you have cases that you are downloading some beds or some complicated furniture which has more than one material, I would suggest to open in 3D Max and then work here with materials. What I usually like to do is to click on Material tab here, and I would like to assign a material with some specific name, so when I open in Enscape I can see that material, because usually when you open these models in Enscape you are just seeing some random names of materials and it's hard to recognize them. Here I will just write a name and I will just tell fabric. That's it. Then I will just assign some kind of color. I will pick all this furniture and assign this one to this furniture. And if you would have more than one material, you would do the same. You would just click on another tab, write what is that object, and apply material to the face. Basically, we're ready to now export this one to import in Enscape. I will select this model. Then I'm going to a file, and here I'm clicking on export selected, and here I am always using a FBX file. You could also import OBJ, but I find that OBJ files are much more heavier, and somehow FBX for me works better. Now I will save this file in my folder. I have saved this model in my folder, but then we have to do another thing. We have to make a placeholder, because if you are placing Enscape asset and then you are not applying to that asset a placeholder, when you will place it in the Revit, you will see just a rectangle. So you will not recognize any kind of details. And it's very important that you are recognizing that the chair is a chair, not a rectangle. Therefore, we have to just prepare a lighter version of the same model. So what I like to do is to select this object, then I am going to click on it and click convert to poly. Great. Then we're coming here, and under modifier tab, what I have to look for is the Pro Optimizer modifier. And basically I just have to go down to make less triangles. This model is extremely heavy. What we have to aim for is under 1000 points. Probably I will need to do it a few times. Now I click on one, and it's already gone down to 2000. Great, but I need to go down more. Again, I will click on Pro Optimizer, click calculate, and go down maybe to 10 this time. Maybe too much, we can go on 20. And yeah, this is basically how now the model would look in the Revit. Not in Enscape, but in Revit, because also two different things. This will be just a placeholder. I'm keeping it selected, and again, I'm going to go to File, Export selected, and I will save it this one as a placeholder. Usually I put in front a P letter, and I know this is my placeholder, and click it on save. Now we are good to go in Enscape. I'm back in the Revit, and here I will click on asset library. This is where I can add this custom asset. As you see in this picture, I already add some assets in exactly the same way. For example, this chair, this bed, and other items. I would like to replace this chair with the red one. I will click on asset library, and then I'm clicking on a plus sign. This is how we're going to add a new asset. Switch to custom asset editor, and this is what is being opened for us. Import geometry. This is where you're going to look for your model. This is my model. You have to select the first one, not the placeholder, the one we made the last one, because you can see also the size of the file. The placeholder has to be very light file. It is okay for Revit. It doesn't make the file heavy. But the real file would be this one, which would be rendered in the Enscape. I click on this one and we click on open. And then we have to wait for some while. And yeah, you see the seating now is a violet because this is the material we applied. And also here we can see written fabric. If you would just import the FBX or OBJ files directly in Enscape, you would see probably something like default or some random names. And if you have many materials, you would not know what is what. First things is that usually the scale is most probably is off because these are meters, so obviously the seating is not 70 meters high because the up axis for me is this epsilon and it tells 70 meters, which is unbelievable. It's not right, and usually you just have to move the zeros. But to be totally sure that this is the correct size, we can go always in the websites and check the sizing of the specific furniture. If I come here and I already before download the file, and it's saying that the height of the seat is 72 centimeters. This is what we're going to put also in Enscape. This value here has to be 0.72. We click it on enter and it's gonna update all the other dimensions. It disappears somewhere, but you just have to click on your keyboard on numbers as 5 or 4 or 2 and you will get it back in the scale. So you will get it back in your window. Great. Now let's not forget to add a placeholder, which is so important. This is place where you can do it. Click on the placeholder and now we're gonna add a placeholder. It's a very light file which we will see only in Revit. If you don't do this step, you will see a rectangle. You probably will have the rectangle 70 by 70 centimeters and it's very hard to understand in that case which is the right side of the seating. Great. The next step would be the add materials, and in this website I checked that they also are giving materials. You can come here, there are different finishes and you can download them. So I chose this one, this red one. Already download the file and I will come here and click on the texture and look for my texture. This is there. We can always adjust the sizing. And you always have to look for seamless textures. This texture seems very good, but if it would look a lot as a tile, then you would need to look at another texture tile and you would see that it's making small rectangles. But this one seems actually very fine. Let's tell it's fine with us. Then I would also click on a high map, use the same one. It has a little kind of bump. And then let's tell the roughness is good with me. And that's almost it. We have to click now on a thumbnail. It's gonna create a little picture for our asset library. Then we will click on the save and export. We click on save and export to save this asset. Great, now we're ready to place it in the model. We have to exit from this window and now in my library I can see this chair and I will click on it and click it somewhere in the floor plan. Ongoing asset placement, so it takes a while, and you see instead of very heavy model we have this light model which is like a little triangle, but it's at least make you understand the position of this chair, so we can place it whenever we want and we can go and see in Enscape how our materials. And here is our chair. looks nice. It looks, probably we have to render it with the right correct lighting, but this is it. This is the way how can you get any kind of objects from websites, from the furniture websites inside in the Revit. The other thing I love to do when I have to submit the floor plan, obviously to the client, I would not submit the floor plan to have these kind of triangle-ish looking furnitures. What I do in that moment, I'm clicking on this furniture, clicking on edit family, and I am usually redrawing it into the shape of this one using annotate tool. And this is something that you can just do once, and then you can copy these assets from your file to file, and you will always have good looking furnitures. This is the trick I'm doing. I will now draw the mask. Firstly, I just draw the mask using annotate tool and going here using masking. And the last step I usually do, I'm clicking on the geometry and I'm going to visibility, click on the edit, and then click on not visible in a plan, because I don't really want it these lines are visible in the plan. I just want to see my clean geometry. Then I'll load it in the project. I will not resave the asset, and I will overwrite this one, and this will be the chair how it's gonna be seen in my plans. But if I go in a 3D, this is the chair which we got from 3D Max, making the reduced polygon model. And then as before in our model in Enscape, we see it just like that. Here we go. This is how you can get furnitures in Revit. If you have any questions, just let me know.